So hi guys, this is William, and today I am in this maize field. And you can see it, the field has been invested by weeds, and these weeds forms are very good examples of those plants that are pollinated by bees. And today I'm in the search of those pollinators as they are looking for the nectar. For example, we have this one just here. And luckily it has gone. Remember, it is in its natural environment. So maybe you can see it somewhere down here. It's gone. It's gone. We can have a look at another one here. This one here. You can see it. It's moving from one flower to the other flower, carrying the pollen grains. So as you can see at the legs, there are the pollen carriers, the pollen bags at the legs of my bee. At the legs of my bee, you can see it. You can see it clearly. So at the legs of my bee, it's carrying with it a lot of pollen grains. And as it is moving from one flower to the other, it is carrying the pollen. It is carrying the pollen, bringing about what is called cross-pollination. Cross-pollination. So you can see at the foot of my bee, there are the pollen bag with which it uses to carry the pollen grains from one flower. Of course, as you can see, they are moving from flowers but within of the same species. So maybe we have another one here. Another one here. Still doing the same. Trying to look for the nectar, squeezing to the nectaries of this flower, and then off it goes. We have so many around here. So many around here. So many around here. You can see they are moving from one flower to the other, looking for the nectar. Looking for the nectar. So that is what we refer to as cross-pollination. 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 One that is very, very essential because it ensures that variations, mixing of genes from one plant to the other. Of course, this brings about very good variations and the transfer of very good qualities. Very good qualities. Because one of the advantages of the cross-pollination is to bring about what is referred to as variations. And when the variations are many, or they bring about that variation, you end up having even better breeds. Better breeds, whether it is in animals or even in plants, it happens. So in this field, we have other flowers apart from those ones. We have these flowers here. We have these flowers here. These flowers here, they are also pollinated by bees. And as you can have a look at the flower, you can see the orientation of the male and the female parts of the flower. I don't know whether they are visible. So the female parts are up here. That is a stigma. And then you can see the anthers are arranged from there. I mean, not the stigma, but the anthers are arranged across or along the style of this particular flower. The style of this particular flower. This flower is polypetalous, and it is also polysepalous, and it also has some epicalyx on it. And this flower is also pollinated by bees. That is why the flowers are brightly colored. That is one aspect. And then number two, you can see the orientation or where the stigma is located up there. The stigma is up there, and then you can see that the anthers that are producing the pollen grains lie along the style. So that one helps to ensure that as the bee is trying to squeeze, into the nectaries, it is going to rub itself against the anthers, and in that, it will be able to carry the pollen grains very well. And also, as it gets in, the stigma is able to trap uh, the pollen grains that the bee is coming along with. Maybe I can show you a bee that is it has, unfortunately it has gone, but we have so many. You can see this one. This one's, they're going to the nectaries of these flowers to look for, to suck the nectar, and in the process you can see they're coming along, they're touching the anthers, and in the process of touching the anthers, what is happening? They carry with them the pollen grains. And as they carry the pollen grains, the stigma is able to do what? The stigma is able to also, because the stigma, remember, they produce a sticky substance. Them being sticky, then they are able to get the pollen grains from what? From the bees that the bees are bringing along with them. You can see this one. Yeah, a nice example. From one flower to the other, from one flower to the other, from one flower to the other. Yeah, from one flower to the other. You can see. So as it is passing along, it is carrying the pollen grains. So it brings about what is called the cross pollination. Wow! You can also see there is another insect. There's another insect that is doing still the same work. A different insect altogether. Different insect altogether. So here we have a bee, but then here we have a different insect. I don't know whether we will be able to see it clearly, but we have another insect here. Maybe bring it down like that. But then you can see it is also sucking the nectar. You can see it also sucking the nectar from the nectaries. You can see that. So this is the importance of the bees, the importance of these insects in our environment. It's why it's very, very important that we conserve our environment. And once we do that, we will be able to get the ecosystem stable. But due to the fact of people are clearing the vegetation to be able to have more lands for cultivation, they end up clearing these, like these ones are wild plants, but you can see they are really supporting the bees population. So in that, even us, we will also go and take that honey that they are collecting from this. So you can see the honey they are collecting from these flowers. So the plant may be wild, but in one way or the other, we benefit from it indirectly. As the bees continue collecting the nectar and what have you, you will be able to get the honey. So we might see as though the plants are wild, but in one way or the other, they are also of benefit to us. In one way or the other. And you can see the flowers have been adapted in such a way that they provide the foods or the nectar to the bees, and then the bees have the pollen tube or the pollen bag with which they carry the pollen grains for this particular flower. So it is very, very essential, it is very, very important that we conserve the environment. It does not matter whatever wild plants we'll have, but you can see this is a wild plant that has really supported a great ecosystem. And when I'm talking about an ecosystem, remember, we have other plants that are growing underneath this plant. You have the bees as part of the insects. So the plant require the bees requires the plant, including the other insects. It's only not only the bees that requires to have this plant growing here. You have also other insects that maybe sucks up from this particular plant, and also have this particular vegetation as their habitat. As you can see, it's only that my camera is not able to catch a number of the insects that are around this plant. We have several species of different insects that are located or they are found in these plants, some finding shelter, others sucking sap from the leaves, and then you have the bees that are collecting the nectar from the nectaries of these flowers. So this one is a very good example of an ecosystem and how these very many insects are are um, are doing what are depending on they are depending on this particular plant. Remember, this plant is just one. So if you were to draw a pyramid of numbers, you'd have an inverted one because you have the same plant, one of them or a few of them supporting a quite diversity of other insects. And when you are to draw the pyramid of numbers, you'd have an inverted shape of the pyramid of numbers because the producer, this plant being the producer, you can see it's not it's one, or if there are many, around five of them. Then from these five, they are supporting a very big ecosystem of other organisms. So thank you very much. If you are new in my YouTube channel, please you can subscribe to it and you can share, help people discover this channel. And when you do this, I really appreciate, and I will continue educating you more with the time. So that is all about bees and pollination. That's all about the flowers and the interdependency when it comes to the insects and the flower. Remember, the flowers have developed in such a way that they have become so dependent to the insects, and the insects now have become so dependent to these flowers. So you can see if we do away with one of them, then the other one will be almost 90% affected. 90% affected. So it's good to take care of our environment. We conserve our environment, and then we'll be able to see. So as you can see, there are also other insects apart from the bees that are still depending on these flowers, yeah, either as sources of pollinators too, or for shelter, and also for sucking the sap, or even for sucking the sap. So nice time, and this is William. Until we meet again in our next one. Thank you.